NFL preseason continues, the MLB season heats up as we come down the stretch, and we keep an eye on a few other things. This is the Next Best Bet, episode 160. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, as always, taking a look at how we did in episode 159. I had 2 losses, but my pick of the pod did win, Brett. But again, I can't seem to catch a game on you because your Levy lock won as well. But now you and I each have an NFL future that's going to be lingering for the next 6+ months as well.
Yeah, well, you had to do that to even out the lingering probabilities. I still got 3 MLBs hanging in the balance. My Rays looked dead at the beginning of the year, bounced back, looking pretty strong right now, Higgins. And then Corey Seager to win the MVP, probably dead in the water, especially with adding Trey Turner and all the other additions to that lineup. So yeah, no shot there. It's probably Bryce Harper and Tatis going now. And the Braves to win the World Series, surprisingly not dead yet. The NL East
It's
picking
wide
up.
open.
Yeah, picking up in competition for sure. The Yankees and the Braves square off this upcoming few days here, Higgins. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it'll be an important one that we're going to talk about as well. Brett, you got back over the 500 mark on your Levy lock. I got to the 500 mark on my pick of the pod, so we'll be racing down the stretch for the rest of the year, I'm sure. But Brett, let's jump into our beginner's boulevard because we're going to talk about a term that might be a little more familiar for people as we get into football. It's going to be used a little bit more in the coming months, and that's buying points. And this is done on typically the point spread or the total points lines for a game. And it means that you are going to be moving those lines. Typically, it moves the juice in the sportsbook favor. However, that means that you are more likely to hit your bet. And Brett, this can happen for a variety of reasons, right?
Yeah, Higgins, you want to try and get over these key numbers in football, field goals and touchdowns, right? So 3 and 7, big point numbers. So sometimes it'll be a spread around 5.5. A bettor will be like, well, you probably win by a touchdown. I don't know, 5, 6, 7. I'd rather them have to get over that 7.5, Higgins. You buy the extra 2 points. You probably have to lay some extra juice. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm an expert on how much the juice grows exponentially, but let's say it starts off -110. You're probably looking close to like -170 to buy 2 points. So you have to lay a little extra money, but you're more likely to hit that bet, get those 2 extra points in your favor.
Yeah, it depends on the sports book for buying and selling points, and it also just depends on the amount of exposure that a book's willing to leave themselves. Because some books they'll move about a quarter per point, which is moving -0.25. So if it's a -110, it would move to -135, and then it would move to -160 potentially if you move 2 points. But there's also some sports books that only do 15 cents or even 10 cents. And that's just, again, the amount of exposure that a book's willing to put themselves open to with how many and how wide of a margin there is to buy and sell points. Brett, let's jump into our MLB, though. Talk about some baseball that's going on Monday. We don't have a lot of games, but we have some good ones. One line that jumped off the page to me is this Rangers Red Sox game, and the Rangers plus 1.5 at plus 145 is just, it's too good for me, Brett. I mean, plus 145 when you're being given a run and a half is spectacular, especially when you look at the fact that the Red Sox, when they are favorites, they are 30-44 this season against the run line. Not to mention also the Rangers so far this season against the Red Sox, they're 4-2. So the Rangers have performed rather well against Boston. They've been able to actually perform more advantageously that they're winning the series. Why are they such big underdogs? And I understand on the money line being underdogs, but plus 145 for a plus 1.5 run line, that is just too good of value for me to pass up. So I got to take it.
Fair enough, Higgins. I won't argue that that's a big plus number next to another plus 1.5 on the run line. But, it's probably well deserved. I will differ with you there. I think the Rangers, probably outside of the Pittsburgh Pirates, worst roster in Major League Baseball. So, yeah, you will not catch me betting either side in this one. The Red Sox have maybe looked more like the team we expected at the beginning of the season, or excuse me, maybe look at the team more like I expected rather than the team than they were at the beginning of the season. Since the post All Star break, they have not been the same team, not hit as well, not pitched as well. So, I mean, I think there's a chance that the Rangers do cover the run line here, Higgins, but I am not going to back it.
Yeah, both these teams are 5-5 against the run line in their past 10 games, so pretty even odds in that sense in terms of how they performed recently. In terms of who's on the mound, I'm not too worried. Nathan Eovaldi on the mound for the Red Sox, Colby Allard on the mound for the Rangers. Should be a hitter's game. I just hope the Rangers can keep it within one run.
I know you do. Higgins, but a game we're both on, White Sox, Blue Jays. This one's a little more interesting than your silly Rangers Red Sox game. Although, important to note, Rangers Red Sox is in the afternoon. The rest of these are night games, Higgins. So, White Sox, Blue Jays, under the lights, Lance Lynn, Alec Manoah. You can find me on the under 9, Higgins. Those are two premier pitchers. Both these teams are going to need these guys to pitch well. And I think they can keep these lineups at bay. These are good lineups. That's why the over under is probably still up there at 9. Because I think if these were pitchers were facing off with, say, like the Mets and Phillies lineup behind them, Higgins, this over under could be at like 8.
Yeah, this over under. I mean, Lance Lynn on the mound is really what kept me away from this over under because I took a look at it too. But Lance Lynn has just been really strong on the mound. Toronto's offense, though, if they can get Lance Lynn in trouble early, absolutely this 9 is in play in terms of an over under. But I like your under pick. Brett, where I'm going with this game is I'm going back to the run line again. We got the White Sox minus 1.5 at plus 140 in Toronto. And with Lance Lynn on the mound, like I said with the over under, it makes it really hard for some runs to come across the plate for the Toronto Blue Jays here. And Lance Lynn can go 7, 8 innings potentially. So could be a light evening of work for the bullpen of the White Sox, even. You take a look at how these teams have done against the run line recently. I mean, in their past 10 games, the White Sox are just 3-7. But if you look at the Blue Jays, overall on their season at home, they're just 30-28. They're not performing that spectacularly. And I really like Lance Lynn on the mound against Alex Manoah. Lance Lynn fighting for an AL Cy Young potential opportunity here. And the Toronto Blue Jays, they've come back to Canada. They've kind of settled back down now. They were playing red hot when they got back to Toronto, and I really expect the White Sox, who they are going to be fighting not only for the AL Central, which they're potentially locking up already at this point as we're getting closer to September now, but they're also fighting for that top seed in the AL playoffs, and they could potentially grab it. So I'm back on Lynn here.
All right. Well, as long as he doesn't throw his belt at any umpires, we should be good, and maybe you'll get 7 innings from him. But the next game we're both on, Higgins. Look at us being super efficient, betting on the same games here. Yankees Braves. We spoke about it briefly earlier. How it's a big series coming up for both these teams. Montgomery versus Yanoa is what we're expected to see on Monday, Higgins, and I'm excited to see who Oscar Yanoa back. I haven't seen him since he's come back from his injury. I believe this is going to be his second, possibly his third start since coming back from injury. So he was a guy that was pitching really well. Also had 2 home runs as a pitcher earlier in the year. So that's
Ooh.
exciting too. This game, I believe, is in Atlanta.
Yep.
And that means the pitchers will bat Higgins. So probably a better batter than Jordan Montgomery. I'm not really taking that into account when I look at the over under, but I do think the Yankees lineup versus a pitcher making his second, possibly his third. Again, I'm sorry I don't have that information, but fresh off of injury, we will say Higgins, still working his way back to full strength. I'm gonna take the over 9 because I believe the Braves can score 4 to 5 runs, and I certainly believe the Yankees can score 6, 7, 8, 9 runs.
It's his second start back since the injury. He took about 3 months off, was sidelined back in May, midway through. Came back August 17th, pitched 5 innings, so it didn't seem like he had an issue in his first start back. But actually, Brett, I'm going to be backing the other pitcher in this matchup, Jordan Montgomery and the Yankees, traveling down to Atlanta on the money line. They are plus 135, and I just love that. You look at both of these teams, they are riding 9-game winning streaks. To me, just off of that means that this money line needs to be closer. It should be a little bit closer. Plus 135 is a little too big for me, so I'm absolutely taking that. And it's also mainly because the Yankees have not been underdogs on the money line very often this year, and when they are, they win. They're 9-7 as away dogs. They're 12-9 overall as underdogs. Meanwhile, if you take a look at Atlanta and them being favorites, they are overall they're good as favorites. They're 51-36, but most of those come on the road because at home as favorites, they're 25-25. So the Yankees traveling down to Atlanta. The Yankees are currently sitting in second in the AL East, just 4.5 games back of the Tampa Bay Rays. Meanwhile, the Braves are atop the NL East division. Think the Yankees are just a little bit hungrier in this scenario, so I'm going to be back in Jordan Montgomery and the Yanks.
All right, yeah, I'm excited to watch this series, Higgins, for sure.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. We had a few other lines come across, Brett, but I wasn't really too interested in any of those. I mean, the Astros, that's an interesting line. They're hosting the Kansas City Royals to me with Zach Greinke on the mound potentially. And then the Mariners Athletics. This is a line that I also took a look at a lot, Brett, because both these teams are fantastic against the run line. The Mariners are the third best team in the MLB against the run line. The Athletics are the fourth best team against the run line. So that's a game that I was eyeing. I might wait till we actually have some lineups for that one before I place it. It's going to be our last game of the night as well, so I'll have a little bit more time.
Yeah, you definitely have some time and big implications for the wild card for the AL West. So all of it's still in play out there.
It really is. Let's jump into some moneyline magic now, Brett. Talk about some NFL preseason week 2. And it seems like the preseason storylines so far have been about quarterback battles for a lot of these teams, especially a lot of the teams that drafted a quarterback this year. But this moneyline magic shows that there's plenty of other position battles, and one team might even be having a bit of a kicker battle. I mean, the Colts and Vikings on Saturday, there weren't a lot of scores. There wasn't a single offensive touchdown, but there were 3 different people kicking field goals.
Ooh, 3 kickers. So which team had 2 kickers, Higgins?
The Colts had 2 kickers. They started off with their guy, Rodrigo Blankenship, who came out of Georgia, was on the team last year with Adam Vinatieri and everything. But he kicks a 47-yarder, and then it seems like his day was pretty much done after the first quarter. But the Vikings, they had a pick six in the first quarter, so they took that back to the house, 33-yard pick six, took the lead, and then each team kicked a field goal in the second quarter. Eddie Pinheiro, 31-yarder for the Colts. Greg Joseph, 49-yarder for the Vikings. So that's the 3 kickers that we have right there, Brett. But in the second half, it was just one guy. It was just one guy. That's all we had.
Just one guy kicked the field goal in the second half. I'm going to guess it was someone on the winning team. Maybe possibly a game winning kick, Higgins.
I think you would be right there. Eddie Pinheiro, he gets 2 opportunities in the second half. He kicks a 50-yarder in the third quarter to make it a 10-9 game when the Vikings were leading. And then with just over 6 minutes in the fourth quarter, he kicked a 28-yard field goal. And the Colts were able to hold on for that 12-10 victory. That's almost a baseball score. It's a high-scoring baseball score, but we've seen some baseball scores up there like that this year, Brett.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like 12-10s. Maybe it's not what you'd call a football game score. I don't know. It's like kind of right at that in between number.
It's not a basketball score, that's for
It's
sure.
not a bad. No, 121 is a basketball score for one team.
Absolutely. Today's episode is brought to you by DB. DB is a Scandinavian brand that makes backpacks and bags to help people on the move stay ready for anything. From the streets to the peaks, DB's gear is travel tested by some of the world's best athletes, adventurers, and creators. Over the past decade, DB has designed and developed, released, and refined the best bags in the market. With DB's patented hookup system, you are able to attach smaller products to your backpack, roller, or tote. I can't stress enough how important it is to find the right luggage for every travel scenario. We're teaming up with DB to exclusively offer our listeners 10% off your next purchase by using the code POD10 or going to the link in our show description. DB, it's time to move on, time to get going. And Brett, we just talked about some NFL preseason, but we're going to continue to do it because we have some Monday night football. And it's going to be an interesting one because we got the Jaguars, who have apparently a quarterback battle between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew. And we have the Saints, who have a quarterback battle between Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. If it's up to me, though, Brett, neither of these teams should be having a quarterback battle, and it should be Trevor Lawrence versus Jameis Winston as the starting quarterbacks. Which means that since it's the preseason, maybe we should actually have Taysom Hill versus Gardner Minshew in this game.
Well, I guess my first thing is I think it's fine that New Orleans is having the battle because you paid Taysom Hill to be your starting quarterback, and then if potential, a past number one overall pick comes onto the market, he has a year to sit and learn in your system, and hopefully get rid of some of his bad traits sitting behind a Hall of Famer. So you hope he picked up a few things, but Jacksonville, you're right. To be honest, I don't really think it's a quarterback battle, Higgins. What my read on the situation, and I don't know, I could be way off on this, right? But my read on the situation is they just want this out there as kind of like a smoke screen almost to just be like, oh, we don't know who our starting and we're just never gonna say it's gonna be Trevor Lawrence. So week one, you have to prepare for both quarterbacks. The
It
truth
could be.
is,
It could be. I think it might be more about trade bait.
maybe it's about trade bait. I think it's a smokescreen. The truth is, I think Trevor Lawrence would benefit from getting all the reps, right? Like, I
Hmm.
think that would be a benefit to him. But I don't think it's a true quote unquote quarterback battle, right? Like, I think it's Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't think Urban Meyer was like, let me come out of retirement to coach Gardner.
So I drive around and I listen to some sports radio on in my car when I drive around. I don't like the radio overall, but Colin Cowherd comes on my car and there's this promo that they run constantly that's him talking about the Jimmy Garoppolo Trey Lance quarterback battle that's going on, and his opinion of that is maybe they're trying to boost Jimmy Garoppolo's trade bait as well. I kind of look at it very similar with Jacksonville in the sense of Gardner could very well be forgotten in all this quarterback movement that's been going on here, and Jacksonville would like to get something for him at least. I agree he's not going to be the starting quarterback at all in the regular season for Jacksonville. At least he shouldn't be, in my opinion. But they need to get something for him, and I think they are going to try to move on for him and give him another opportunity somewhere else. So it'll be interesting to see what that's like, though, or where that is. Let's take a look at these lines, though, Brett, because the Saints are going to be favored by 4 points in this game. And because of this quarterback battle that we're talking about, I think that might be right because we might actually see the Saints have more meaningful quarterbacks in their game for longer.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Gardner Minshew starting for the Jaguars and then Trevor Lawrence potentially getting 2 quarters. So he gets to experience what it's like to come out of halftime. But yeah, I don't know that they'll do that for sure. I think the Saints definitely want to figure out who their week one starter is going to be if they don't know already. So I could see both their quarterbacks playing pretty deep into this game, and then maybe Ian Book coming in halfway through the third or, the fourth quarter. Maybe it'll be the guy who was with the Jets and the Broncos. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Simeon, Trevor Simeon.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I knew his teams. I couldn't think of his name. Poor guy. But yeah, I think you're right. These quarterbacks could play deep into this one because the Saints probably, to your point, are in a real quarterback battle. And then I think Higgins, and again, maybe I'm crazy, but I think it is important to have a rookie experience coming out of halftime, probably before week one. Like, you probably want that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would understand that as well. So I'm actually going to be making a play or making a bet on this game. The over under is set at 39 and a half, and I'm still going to be taking that under despite what we've said about these quarterback battles and the potential for these quarterbacks to be left in for longer. I mean, I we've taken a look at these NFL preseason over unders, and like we've talked about in previous episodes, the over under or the unders when the number is set at 37 or higher in the NFL preseason, it has a 60% hit rate. That was going into this week. This week there were a few more overs that hit than in week 1, but I'm still going to run with the under this in this game. 39 and a half. It might get up to 40, but I'm not going to bank on that for Monday, so I'm going to take it at 39 and a half.
Yeah, this was a stay away for me. I thought the number looked high, Higgins, like you. I stayed away though because I didn't know what the quarterback situation was going to be. And again, if I'm an idiot, so be it, but I think you want Trevor Lawrence to come in with the two scripted drives, the one scripted drive after halftime, and at least play those. So, you give him one, two drives in the second half, maybe it's an extra touchdown. And, sometimes that's what kills these over unders, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there's 4 quarterbacks battling for a starting spot in this game could make this over under at extreme risk. I'm not going to hide that fact at all, but I think it's going to leave reason to leave some defensive players in there maybe a little bit longer and stuff like that. And we also don't know the extent of these playbooks that are going to be shown or if they're just going to go through the motions and try to get some confidence builders with some basic plays and basic formations and things like that. It'll be interesting. I'll be very intrigued to see how it goes. Brett, before we get out of here, though, I mean, as we take a look and head into the NFL and college football season, there's plenty of futures that are kind of in play right now. I've formalized my NFL single season passing yards record last episode. I'm going to start taking a look at some of these win total over unders, I think. That's what I'm going to start looking at this week, and I might, next episode or the episode after, I might have a play or two for those as we head into the regular season.
Yeah, I found some a fun one too, Higgins. It's the exact finishing position in your division. And I didn't want to bring it up, but since we're doing this, the New York Giants one has kind of stood out to me. I have not placed a bet on it, but it's definitely caught my eye. I think with all due respect, Higgins, maybe you want to cover your ears for this segment. I don't know. But everything out of Giants camp has been pretty bad, except maybe every once in a while we get a positive note that, like, hey, Saquon Barkley, it's not all bad. He was at practice today. So we still don't know if he's going to be ready for week one or not, but we think he will be. We think Daniel Jones will improve. We think, the team will improve with Kenny Galladay. But I just don't know, Higgins. It sounds like training camp has been hell. 3 New York Giants players have retired during camp. Like, they literally decided, Higgins, I'd rather go home than get this I don't know what an average NFL contract is, but let's call it $1 million. I'd rather go home than get this mill. So the Giants to finish fourth in the division at plus 185, that feels good to me, but I haven't bet it yet because I don't really like betting on teams to do bad. Like that's not fun. Like I don't want to be like, "Oh, let me take all my money and bet on the New York Giants to lose every game."
Hey, I don't disagree with a single thing you said about the Giants there. My only word of caution is that the entire NFC East I expect to be bad like last year. So the Giants to finish dead last in the division may be a tougher sell than is initially pictured, just because that division was a shit show last year, and I'm not expecting much better this year. I think personally it's going to be a fight between the Giants and the Eagles at the bottom of the division. Who knows though? I mean, injuries could happen. The Cowboys could just be the Cowboys again and just not play well at all. Their defense was dead last year, so who knows? The NFC East, it's too sloppy for me to take a look there. But I do like those plays, and I might find an exact order type play as well. I might look at something like the NFC West where things are also going to be so close that there could be some great value because there's bigger risk in these divisions where things are going to be so close, whether for good reasons or bad reasons. But because of how close things are going to be, there's going to be some excellent value because of the opportunity all of these combinations actually have. So it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting. But Brett, let's jump into our Levy lock in the pick of the pod, and I'm gonna give you the honors this time.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to take the honors and I'm going to go to the Yankees Braves game. Montgomery, Yanoa on the mound. The over under set at 9. I like both of these lineups. I guess it's important to note Montgomery, I'm like 99.9% sure he's a lefty. So I wouldn't expect Jock Peterson in the lineup for the Braves. I would expect a different outfielder, probably in left or right field. But Eddie Rosario should be out there. Maybe Jorge Soler going up against the lefty. Maybe that's a good battle for him. Maybe he gets a little extra pop in his bat, and we'll take that over 9, Higgins.
Well, let's just stay with the same game, Brett, because my pick of the pod's actually also in this Yankees Braves game. I'm taking the Yankees money line. You were right, Jordan Montgomery. He does pitch lefty. He also hits a lefty, and as you mentioned earlier in this podcast, this game is going to be in Atlanta, so the pitchers do have to hit. But Jordan Montgomery, he's won his last. Well, he didn't win, but the Yankees won the last 3 times that he was on the mound for them. And overall, both these teams have 9 game win streaks. So I just think this line of Yankees plus 135, it's just a little too good of value because I really would expect this money line to be a little closer to even with the fact that both these teams are red hot like this. I really like the Yankees and what they're doing. They're currently sitting in second in the AL East, so they're hungry, eyeing the Tampa Bay Rays. Meanwhile, the Braves are sitting in the NL East atop the division, so they're trying to hold some people off. I think the Yankees are just a little bit more motivated on Monday, so that's who I'm going with. But I think that's going to be a great game.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for that series. I'm honestly, I probably won't be staying up for it. I'd be lying to myself if I told myself I was staying up for Mariners A's. But I'm going to be very interested in looking at the box scores in the morning and seeing who won. I think that race is really intriguing, Higgins. It's a big impact on the wild card as well. So it feels like every year we're destined for Yankees A's in the postseason. That's just like written in the stars. Yankees A's postseason. So that's probably what we'll get. But there was a time in the early 2000s, late 1990s, Higgins, when I feel like it was the Yankees and the Mariners that met every year in the postseason.
I would have to agree, and with the Mariners and the Athletics facing off, they got to be rooting for the Kansas City Royals to beat up on the Astros a little bit with that series going on. It'll be interesting on the West Coast. I'll be making sure that I'm up for that game. I'll be watching that one for sure. Make sure to follow us on our social media. We'll be giving out some picks between now and the next episode. That's at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 160 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.